We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm State Senator Jake Hoffman and the founding chairman of the Arizona Freedom Caucus. You know, before we get fully into my remarks, I want to give a very special thank you on behalf of myself, the Arizona Freedom Caucus, and every legislator standing here with us to the dozens of ESA families that have made time out of their day to come down and fight for the invaluable educational resource known as empowerment scholarship accounts. Thank you all for being here. Now we're here today to talk about Katie Hobbs's abhorrent plan to regulate by death by 1,000 cuts the empowerment scholarship program out of existence. This is an abhorrent scheme designed to destroy an empowering program that has helped hundreds of thousands of people, not just in their academic studies, but throughout their life. Now, in order to effectively discuss this issue, we have to first establish some indisputable facts. Government-run schools are failing Arizona children. This is a fact. As one of my colleagues commonly explains, 20 years ago, taxpayers invested $7.5 billion in government-run schools, educating 1 million students. The result for that investment? A absolutely terrible proficiency rate of only 40%. Today, taxpayers invest $16.5 billion, an increase of 220% on those same government-run schools. They serve 1.1 million students. So negligibly, it's about the exact same number. So with more than twice the money, did the government produce any better result? No. In fact, the results got worse, with the current proficiency rate of only 38%. The simple and indisputable fact is that government has failed and continues to fail the children of this state. For decades, Arizona Republicans have seen the plight of our students. We've heard the cries for help from families, and we have innovated, collaborated, and found solutions from charter schooling to empowering homeschool parents, and most recently, universal educational freedom through the Empowerment Scholarship Account program. These programs have helped millions of students find the educational environment best fitted to help them succeed. This educational success has allowed students to find opportunity and achieve prosperity, not just in their academic studies, but throughout life. Katie Hobbs and Arizona Democrats want to destroy these educational successes. Katie Hobbs and Arizona Democrats want to force children into a failing educational model that is currently leaving 62% of our state's children lacking grade level proficiency. Don't take my word for it. Just take the Democrats' own words at face value. Less than 60 days ago, the Pima County Democrat Party put out a statement that declared, "Let's kill school choice. Send it to the grave." To the families and parents in our state, know this: Democrats want to strip you of your right to fight for your children's future. Democrats think you're too stupid to choose the educational environment that will give your child the best potential for a vibrant and successful life. So let's look at Katie Hobbs's plan. She claims to care about increasing student safety, yet proposes a solution in search of a problem, considering it is already a best practice employed by private schools. It's government-run schools, not private schools, that are forced to discipline dozens, in some years hundreds of teachers for drug-related, alcohol-related, and sex-related behavior. This happens every single school year. Forcing an added layer of bureaucracy on private schools simply for bureaucracy's sake doesn't keep kids safer. Katie's plan claims to care about protecting students with disabilities. Yet her plan is little more than a perverse attempt to exploit those very students in order to strip them of a life-changing educational resource. The fact is that students with disabilities fleeing the public school system by the thousands due to lack of sufficient services have made up the largest cohort of ESA recipients for more than a decade. She claims to want accountability for taxpayers, yet has never uttered one word about the tens of millions of dollars wastefully spent every single year by district schools. You see, it doesn't please Katie's union boss allies to call out the monumental fraud, waste, and abuse that feeds their gravy train. So instead, Katie focuses her sights on innocent children and parents. You know, not only do these families receive thousands of dollars less than their district school counterparts, every single expenditure is already subjected to a review process. Katie's plan claims to want to reinstate eligibility requirements, when what she really means is she wants to arbitrarily force children to spend more than 3 months in a school system that fails to meet their needs. She claims to want to raise educational standards, yet proposes to force private schools to hire the very same teachers with state-mandated certifications whose students are currently failing to meet even basic grade level proficiency in core competencies. You know, and Arizona charter school operators have proven that non-certificated teachers can outperform their government-mandated peers by a rate of 3 to 1. Katie's plan purports to solve the imaginary issue of price gouging by mandating price controls arbitrarily imposed by government. Now, this despite the fact that private schools outperform public schools with roughly half the money per student, and private school tuition rates have risen at a slower pace than government school spending has increased. I could go on, but it's clear that I don't need to. Arizona Republicans have made a promise to the people of this great state that we will do everything in our power to give their children the greatest potential for opportunity, prosperity, and a vibrant life. Universal educational freedom isn't just good policy. It's a demonstrated recipe for successful academic and life outcomes. So just as we promised, Republicans will continue to pursue policies that create the brightest future possible for every Arizona child, and we will protect the rights of parents to direct the upbringing of their children. Unfortunately, for the people of Arizona, Katie Hobbs is only interested in playing partisan political games and weaponizing the state government against those she disagrees with. The simple fact is that Katie's plan is plainly nothing more than a political stunt intended to virtue signal to her extremist anti-educational freedom and anti-parent choice base. So let me be exceedingly clear on behalf of every member standing here and behalf of Republicans at the Capitol. Katie Hobbs's attempt to destroy educational opportunities for the children of this state, for more than 74,000 of them, is dead on arrival at the legislature. Yeah! Now, I would like to introduce an ESA parent and a member of our State Board of Education, Jenny Clark, to share how empowerment scholarship accounts provide children with opportunities to learn, to grow, and to expand their horizons like little else. With that, please welcome Jenny Clark.
Thank you. Well, I'll never forget the hundreds of families reaching out to Love Your School, looking for options during COVID. Families who wanted to get empowerment scholarships because their child was struggling with anxiety, depression, or who were significantly behind academically because of education disruption. Things that children should never have to go through. Back then, the empowerment scholarship was only for a limited number of students, and we had to tell the majority of the families that came to us for help, no, I'm sorry, you don't qualify, time and time again. Fast forward to 2022 when Republican legislators passed universal empowerment scholarship accounts. Now we could finally say yes to tens of thousands of families. Yes to kids who had been bullied and had no way out in the middle of the school year, now on an empowerment scholarship. Yes to kids with severe depression who couldn't get an IEP, now yes to an empowerment scholarship. Yes to families who moved to Arizona for a better quality of life for their students with disabilities. They used to have to enroll and make their children attend 100 days of public school before they could get on an ESA. Governor Hobbs wants to roll back the freedoms that our children have with an empowerment scholarship. No thanks, Governor Hobbs.
Right, come on.
She wants to send our kids back to public schools, which many ESA families left because it wasn't working for our kids. No thanks, Governor Hobbs. She wants to hyper-regulate private schools, making them fearful of accepting empowerment scholarship account students. No thanks, Governor Hobbs. Governor Hobbs made her message very clear just a year ago, in case any of the press forgot. She issued a press release calling for the complete repeal of empowerment scholarships in this state. These fear tactics from the governor's office are not only unbecoming, they are disgraceful. As of today, nearly 74,000 Arizona children are thriving on empowerment scholarships. We simply want to keep on doing what is best for our kids, for our state, and for our country by giving our kids the education that works for them, whether that's a district, a charter, a private, an online, a homeschool, or an ESA. With an empowerment scholarship, tens of thousands of Arizona families have found an education that is inspiring, that is beautiful, that is full of joy and hope for their children. Governor Hobbs, we will not sit idly by while you threaten our families and our children's education.
Yeah.
Your attacks, your attempt to control, and your desire to co-parent our children, to that we say, no thanks, Governor Hobbs. Thank you.
All right, so that concludes our prepared remarks. If the media has any questions, we do have time for just a couple. Obviously, today's schedule is pretty tight, so if we have a couple of questions, happy to go ahead and take them.
Part of the governor's plan is requiring background checks and I think fingerprinting for educators who have used ESAs. Is that something that could be an area of compromise? Is that something that Caucus could support?
So what Governor Hobbs has proposed is designed to look good on the surface, but it's a camel's nose under the tent when it comes to the regulatory scheme to regulate these to death. We do not believe that we should be forcing private schools to do something that they're already doing simply because the governor is trying to virtue signal to her base.
Then what is the nature of those reviews, that oversight?
So right now,
State your name, please, and your outlet. Okay, another question. We'll do real media outlets first.
Well, I'm a question, sir.
Okay, right here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Barbara Arizona News Radio. So then tell us just how those reviews take place. Explain the process. What do you do?
Say again.
Those background requirements that you say you have.
So as I mentioned in my remarks, private schools are already engaged in those. It's a typical insurance requirement for schools. I mean, these are things that they're already doing as a best practice. We're not going to add in a layer of bureaucracy when this is something that they're already doing and doing it well. They have a track record of it. Any other questions?
yes or no.
They all already don't.
Dennis, it's already being done. We're not going to add in an added layer of bureaucracy to satisfy Governor Hobbs's attempt to virtue signal to her base. The governor does not, the government does not need to tell these schools how to do something that they're already doing. The private sector is known for being wildly more efficient and more successful than government. I mean, good Lord. Have you been to the MVD lately? Right? Have you looked at the USPS lately? Have you looked at Amtrak? Pick a program in government. Government is not the answer to the problem. Government is the problem. Private schools are already doing this.
New question.
We're gonna move on. New question. No. No. Dennis. Hey, Dennis.
Somebody else.
Dennis. Well, I know because my children go to a private school, so I know what my kid's school does. Dennis, if you'd like to move on to a new issue, we can do that. Otherwise, we're going to let these folks get back to opening day. It's your call. It's your call, Dennis. Okay, we got a question right here.
Hey Jake, so to change topics a little bit, can you give us an update about the investigation that Attorney General is having into you and Anthony at this time?
So you know what, I appreciate your attempt to create some false narrative here, but we're here to talk about empowerment scholarship accounts and how they are changing the lives for the better of Arizona children, and Katie Hobbs wants to destroy that educational opportunity. Okay, when you got a question on ESAs, happy to come back to you.
You're concerned about the proficiency of the public schools. How do we know that children who are educated with ESAs are achieving or surpassing?
I can show you my son's grade.
How can we know that?
So, again, appreciate the Democrat talking point, but parents vote with their wallets, parents vote with their feet. Parents take their children to private schools because they are providing a superior product. If they weren't providing a superior product, they wouldn't be taking their children there. Okay, we have time for one more question. Does anybody else have one?
How about a budget question over here? Budget question.
Yeah.
Sure.
So what's the plan what's your response to Governor Hobbs saying that, the shortfall is tied with ESAs, and how is that going to change the Freedom Caucus's approach to the issue?
You're gonna have to speak up. It's a very long question.
Okay, so how...
You should run for the Senate. You can come filibuster.
How is the Freedom Caucus going to change their approach if Hobbs keeps on using the ESAs as kind of the chess piece in terms of the budget and saying that it's responsible for that?
Well, so the interesting thing is you frame that as how is the Freedom Caucus going to change its approach based on Katie Hobbs's argument. But the reality is that the Freedom Caucus and the Republican caucus at large stand united on this issue. Governor Hobbs, if I will remind you, Governor Hobbs vetoed Republicans' responsible budget that would have left over $2 billion on the table last year. This deficit is squarely on Katie Hobbs's shoulders. This is not a problem with ESAs. ESAs save taxpayers money. This is not a problem with tax cuts. People should be able to keep the fruits of their labor. But let me tell you, in addition to vetoing the responsible budget, in her bloated budget, she put $52 million into that budget to remodel the interior of government offices. In an environment and an economy where people are struggling just to put food on the table or to put gas in their tank, Katie Hobbs wants to invest money in remodeling government offices. Katie Hobbs put $15 million into that budget to give a facelift to some government websites. Do you think that that's in the best interest of the people of Arizona? Because I sure as hell don't. I don't think these legislators think that's in their best interest. She put $20 million into EV charging stations in the budget. You want to talk about responsible budgeting? She should have signed the responsible budget that Republicans sent her. What we're here to do is say we're going to put children first and make sure that they have the best potential for opportunity, prosperity, and a vibrant life down the road. Okay, thank you guys very much. We're going to go ahead and get back to opening day ceremonies.